It takes about 60 minutes to complete. However, if pupils need more time, there is the allocation to give pupils more time to complete if needed. They are done in English and maths and science, basically a measure of progress throughout the year. So what are the highlights? What things does it look for? So it assesses pupils' knowledge and understanding and the application in the core subjects of English, maths and science. It helps us track progress at both individual and cohort levels, so we can see how individual pupils are getting on and how we are getting on as a year group, year 5, year 8, for example. Probably the most powerful thing that GL does is it standardizes anybody that takes the test. So there's over 100,000 pupils that have taken GL tests. So these gives us benchmarks against international standard, and over 500,000 pupils have done these sort of tests throughout the time. So it helps us validate and compare data. Why that's very useful is that obviously Dubai being very transient, if you are moving on or in the future going to other countries, back to other countries, it means there is a validity of data, so you can show evidence of where your child has progressed at their current year group. So just to give a few highlights of that, so the GLs are going to be in maths, English and science. They are computer based. They take approximately 60 minutes, but there is longer if pupils need it.
Thank you, Mr. Robbins. So why are the GL assessments administered? Well, they are mandated by the KHDA. All schools across the UAE and in Dubai complete the GL assessments, as Mr. Robbins said, in English, maths and science. Just touching upon what Mr. Robbins said earlier, they provide a summary of student achievement. They enable us as leaders, teachers and parents to check for understanding, and it allows us to look for continued misconceptions in learning as well. Therefore, it's a great tool to identify both strengths and next steps for our learners across primary and secondary school. This is really important because it then feeds into our end of year reports, and this is shared with our class teachers as students transition into their next year group. Okay, I will touch upon a little bit about the reporting aspect towards the end of the webinar. Why else do we administer them? Well, it's a powerful tool because we can make comparisons, not only within Dubai, but we can make comparisons internationally. We can make comparisons with UK schools who are obviously following the British curriculum, and it gives us an understanding of where we sit globally. As Mr. Robbins touched upon earlier, it measures both attainment and progress in English, maths and science. Now, the GL assessments can be taken at the start of the year for baselining, at the middle or at the end of the year, and then year on year, but predominantly they are taken towards the end of the year to focus on attainment for that current year and progress between the last academic year and this one. And as I said earlier, the reports are set against national averages, so you can validate and reliably compare results with other schools across the country and with those schools in the UK.
So which year sit the assessment? So all pupils in year 4 to year 10 are mandated by KHDA. So all pupils in year 4 to 10 will take it. However, year 3 pupils will also sit the assessments, mainly for coverage and consistency across the Key Stage 2. So all pupils in year 3 to year 10 will take it. There is no science GL for year 7. Again, that is across the board, every school. There isn't a GL assessment for year 7 pupils. So all pupils from year 3 to year 10 will sit the assessments.
So when will the GL assessments take place? Now, the window for this is between Sunday the 4th of April and Thursday the 30th, Monday the 4th of April, sorry, and Thursday the 30th of June. Now, that is the window that the assessment window opens. That is when schools are able to sit the assessments, okay? Now, at the Academy, all students, we are looking at completing the GL assessments towards the end of May and the start of June. We are looking at the week beginning the 30th of May to begin the assessments for all students across the Academy. Now, it is a little bit easier in a primary school to timetable the GL assessments, just because our secondary colleagues have obviously GCSEs and their key assessment free around about a similar time. Okay, so for the primary setting, they will definitely begin on the 30th of May, and our secondary colleagues will begin around about that time as well. This also gives us ample time to catch up on students who have unfortunately missed the assessments, especially if they've been absent from school. Okay, so all GL assessments will take place during the regular school day. And as I just said, if your child or a child is absent on the day, we have got the opportunity to sit the assessment at a later date on arrival back to school. So at the Academy, we have several strategies that we focus upon throughout the year in order to prepare all of our students in years 3 to 10 for these end of year assessments. So one of our vision pillars is the science of learning. In our day-to-day practice, we think about cognitive load, trying not to overload information, and ensuring that students can process this information presented to them on a daily basis. Within this, we've got a retrieval-focused curriculum across the entire school, where we build in lots of opportunity to recall previously learned information so that that is embedded and stored into students' long-term memories. We also, throughout the entire year, and especially around this time now, look at the gap analysis, okay? We look at the strengths of individual students in each subject, and we also look at those areas where they require further support. This gap analysis enables us as practitioners, as teachers, to make adaptations to the curriculum and to personalise learning towards each and every child. As we are a world-class high-performance learning school, in all of our lessons we create opportunities for students to analyse and we promote those meta-thinking skills throughout our daily routines, so that students have the best opportunity to apply what their understanding is into their GL assessments. We also have mock style GL questions that we introduce to students, especially around this time of the year, but also previously as well. This helps us to understand areas in which the students are confident in, and it also helps to understand where we need to move to next. So this helps us track progress. It helps inform our teaching and learning as well. We also encourage online quizzes throughout the school day and encourage the use of our computer suites, especially during our computing lessons. And this just helps with students becoming familiar with the platform, because as you will know, parents, they're very familiar with their iPads. However, unfortunately, the GLs cannot be sat on iPads. So these will be sat on computers. But please be rest assured there's lots of opportunities for students to familiarise themselves with computer-based assessments throughout the year. We also have the essentials that we cover in our lessons. We pitch our lessons extremely high, having high expectations. We model our teaching so that students are successful in their outcomes. We also scaffold for individual students. and so that this learning is differentiated, and we also personalize that learning based on the gaps, the gap analysis that we cover as well. On the screen, you'll also see that there's a couple of external mandated assessments, the CAP 4 assessments as well, which we sit at the start of the academic year. This is an assessment tool which informs us about the potential of a child and also how they best learn. This really supports in our teaching and learning and helping to support personalised that learning for students throughout the entire year. At the bottom of the screen as well, our PASS assessments. Now this looks at the child as a whole, and this looks at child's how their understanding and their feelings towards school, towards the curriculum, and we as educators can then adapt our curriculum and our teaching in order to meet the needs of each individual child. I think it's important to say that all of the information that is presented through each and every assessment we use, we triangulate so that we have a whole picture of each and every child at the academy.
So the English, Maths and Science strategies here at the Academy. So English has a focus on the discrete teaching of spelling, punctuation and grammar, or SPAG. It's throughout English lessons, there are GL-style questions embedded, so that helps pupils become aware of obviously how the assessment's going to take. Students are used to taking online quizzes throughout the school here at the Academy. In English, key skills are assessed and referred to and applied in all lessons. And for primary, you have like sensory diagnosis and nuggets as well. So in English, that is how what strategies we use to prepare the pupils. For maths, the curriculum allows quite a greater depth of opportunities. Again, for example, in primary, you might be familiar with White Rose, which allows for these opportunities. We also, throughout the curriculum, it allows maths to be applied in both familiar and unfamiliar contexts. We have core math skills embedded to enhance recall, as Mr. Waterworth suggested earlier on. Students, again, are used to taking online quizzes in maths. Secondary use My iMaths, for example, so they are used to using platforms. And again, we have diagnosis and nuggets throughout. For science, how do we prepare pupils for that? So again, there is online platforms throughout the school which pupils will be familiar with digital assessments. There is also mathematical skills embedded through the science curriculum. So there is a cross-curricular approach. Example, things like statistics. Our inquiry-based model of learning has embedded and ensure working scientifically skills have a focal point in each lesson. So those are how we prepare pupils for those lessons. Pupils in the lessons. What can parents do is often a question we get asked. And to be honest, there isn't a great deal of extra preparation that you can do. There is no extra revision that is required. Again, this takes place in lessons automatically. For secondary, as we touched upon at the start, it is built in and during the key assessment calendar. So the natural revision that will happen in maths, English and science will cover the GL and the progress assessment. So there's no extra work that needs to really happen. Primary will have kind of worksheets, and your home related tasks, which are already given through Century, are created to be structured towards the GL assessments. So those are things which happen throughout primary. Obviously, home learning, which is either set in Century on primary or Microsoft Teams, will continue to support children that are recalling all the information I've learned over the year. So the homeworks are tailored towards these GL tests. And obviously teachers over the coming weeks will provide extra things in lessons or provide opportunities to plug student gaps. So just please look out for these in the learning pathways. So just in summary for that, for parents, there isn't a great deal to extra stress about and want extra things from teachers. These are happening automatically in school through their normal home learning tasks and through normal progress in lessons. These are what the pupils will be prepared for.
Okay, so how are results shared with families? So the results from each of the GL assessments in English, Maths and Science are embedded within reports on our Ladders at Home system, Learning Ladders, and Go for Schools in secondary. The results will be shared as well afterwards for both primary and secondary students. But these are embedded within the reports. So teachers will use this assessment and triangulate with other forms of assessment in able to form an overall judgment at the end of the academic year, looking at both external and internal assessments, okay? Now, just to wrap up what we've talked about in the webinar, we talked about what the GL assessments are. We've talked about why they are administered. We touched upon which year groups are going to be sitting these. So there's going to be year 3 to year 10. We talked a little bit about when they will be taking place, and the fact that a couple of weeks prior to them actually starting, we will share a timetable with parents so you know which days these will take place on. We shared some overall academy strategies that we follow throughout the entire year, and touched upon strategies linked into English, Maths and Science. Mr. Robbins then touched upon about preparation and the fact that there isn't actually any further preparation that is required from you as parents. The students will be well prepared for these assessments throughout the entire year. And then last but not least, we just touched upon the end results and sharing the results with parents, and these will be shared and they'll be embedded throughout the end of year reports, okay? Now, we do have a little bit of time at the end, a couple of minutes for any questions that you may have. There might already, if you just like to write them in the chat, I think that will be the best way for the questions to come through, okay? Jahawa, thank you for your question. There won't actually be any samples of GL of actual questions given to given to you as parents. One of the things that this year with the GLs, one of the main changes actually is that year on year the GL assessments have been the same assessment. However, this year the GL assessments are changing and the questions on there are changing. So there will be questions that we are unaware of as well. So we won't be actually sharing any examples with you. Just from a primary perspective, there will be lots of recall and retrieval opportunities on Century, Jahawa, that we will set, your classroom teachers will set as home learning that will really support in preparation for these, okay?
Yeah, so I'll answer this question. It says, how do tests benefit kids in the long run? I mean, do the scores help in other schools' admissions or rankings? So yeah, so yes, so that's one reason how it can help. So again, if you are in the future thinking of transferring to home country or another country, these tests are worldwide, so it will help with things like that, admissions. Again, for us, it helps us compare benchmarks to other schools in Dubai as well. So for want of a better phrase, you can rank yourselves into where you are. For us, in terms of pupils, it also helps us gap fill. So if for GLs it comes up that there are areas of curriculum which a pupil or a cohort of pupils have not really understood, then we need to revisit that in teaching again. So it helps us in a number of ways. But yeah, mainly the comparability across international benchmarks is probably the biggest thing for us.
So there's a question on here about do they have to bring their own computer to the test? No, we will provide, we've got the computer suites that are accessible for all students. So there is no computers or laptops to be provided. We will provide those. And are the questions based on their daily learning? Yes, so the questions on the GLs are based on the national curriculum for that age group level. So the questions that they will receive will be based upon their daily learning and the British curriculum in English, maths and science that they've learned throughout the year, okay? So the test questions are actually, there's a variety. So there's just your simple selection of an answer. There is opportunities to actually physically write an answer. There's multiple choice questions, which is predominantly in science, is a predominantly multiple choice. There are drag and drop answers that you have to, that the students will have to do. So there's a variety of different types of questions that the students are asked on the screen. There are some questions that require one answer. There are some questions that require two answers. So yes, there's a variety of questions that will be used. One of the main questions are multiple choice questions, okay? Or questions where there is a blank space and the students will have to input their answer. It's not a touch screen assessment. It's not compatible with that. So it will be use of a mouse and keyboard, and that is what we are now in the process of doing, and we have done throughout the years, familiarising students with use of keyboards and mouses, because as we know, they're very used to using their iPads and their touch screens. So we want to give them the best opportunity. So we're giving them lots of familiarisation at the minute with use of keyboards and mouses as well. The class teachers and additional adults will be in the room with them for any technical support as well. Okay, so please don't worry about that. So with regards to a pass mark, there isn't a specific threshold which gives a pass mark. The GLs will recommend whether students are working at or within where they should be for their age-related expectations. It will highlight whether they're still working towards in that area, or it will highlight whether they have exceeded or working above those age-related expectations. I've just got a question about Sentry. Yes, Sentry is a platform that is used in Key Stage 2 only, not used in Year 1s. So there's lots of questions here coming through on the chat. Okay, so what's the difference between a test and a CAP 4? I did touch upon that in the webinar. So a CAP 4 is done at the start of the year. That tells us about the potential of each and every child, and also tells us about their preferred learning styles. And also gives us predictions about what students should achieve on their end of year GL assessments. So the GL assessments at the end of the year are all about attainment, and it looks at curriculum coverage. CAP 4s looks at their potential on those, okay?
Yeah, so there's no Year 7 science GL. That's across the board. It's not just our school. There isn't one GL. Do you know the new one? It's worth CAP 4 to go back to the CAP 4 and GL test. They are the same like company effectively that runs them both. What is the kind of change of style of questions in questioning? So it's the same as Mr. Watt was just answered, really, that the GL questions have all been changed this year. So whereas if a pupil was in Year 9, they might have done similar questions in Year 7 and Year 8. It's completely new this year, but so it would be the same, mainly multiple choice questions. However, some questions do ask to expand upon an answer, but mainly it would be a multiple choice, as Mr. Watt said earlier on. There's been quite a few questions around what extra can we do and what home learning can we do. So just the normal school platforms of interventions in school and support work in school would already be happening in lessons, and just the normal platforms for home learning, homework, etc. So Teams for secondary and Century for primary. So there isn't I want to stress to parents there isn't a great deal of need to do a lot of extra homework and home support and panic around this. There isn't a mock test around GLs at all, so that there isn't that kind of style of questioning really that happened with GL. I missed the part about home support. All right, okay. So yeah, someone just said I missed the bit about home support and e-learning. Can you please come again? So as I just said then, there isn't a great need to do any extra home learning or anything extra at home. Normal classroom patterns, normal classroom teaching, normal interventions in secondary school are happening if there is anything that needs to be gap filled. But it is obviously the whole year's potential curriculum that will be covered. So if you're unsure, that's probably the answer to that.
Yep. So if students are currently in years 3 and all the way through to year 10, all students in year 3 currently and all the way through to year 10 will sit the GL assessments. Barring year 7 will not sit the science assessment. Okay. Just a quick comment for Nita. Thank you for your comment there and your feedback regarding the LearnLadders system. That's really appreciative, and take your feedback on board, and we'll definitely look into that for you. So thank you for your feedback on that.
Yeah, I think. Is there any other questions at all? Anything we've missed there? I think that's yeah.
Please don't worry if we have missed any of the questions that you've posted. We do apologize. There was quite an influx of questions come through there at the end that we were just scrolling down. No, science is for year 3, not for year 7. Okay, so no science for year 7 only. Lots of questions that appeared in the chat, so hopefully we've managed to answer them all. If, however, we haven't answered them, on the letter sent out last week, both myself and Mr. Robbins' email addresses are on there. If you'd like to send us a quick email with any further questions that you have, we will be more than happy to answer those. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day today to attend this webinar. I hope you found it informative, and I hope that's helped ease any worries that you may have in the lead up to these. All students will be very well prepared for each and every assessment that they take on the GLs at the end of the year. But again, if you do have any questions, please do reach out to either Mr. Robbins or myself. We'll be more than happy to support you with that. Okay. Yes, last question, Nadeem. Yes, the recording. I actually started the webinar and forgot to press record. However, a couple of minutes in, I did remember. So I've recorded the session. I will, for primary, I will have this shared in the weekly newsletter on Friday. In the week, I'm going to share this on Friday. The class teacher will share this through their weekly email, Mr. Robbins.
Yeah, so we'll do something to inform teachers. The form teachers send the recording out to inform teachers.
Yeah. What we'll do is we'll do that, but we'll also share it centrally through our PRE Jacqueline as well via email, and we'll get that together and we'll share it centrally as well. So just in case anybody misses that. Okay. Thanks, Nadeem. Okay, thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you all.
Really appreciate your time today. Have a lovely rest of the day, and we will speak to you all soon.